You're watching wrestling YouTube videos, which means you probably have some opinions about John Cena. Everyone is quick to point out that the prototype has buried his fair share of wrestlers. But has the leader of the C Nation ever been buried himself? And look, I'm not talking about simple losses that didn't mean anything. I want to know if John Cena has ever had a true loss. So let's get into it. And like I said before, of course Cena has had some losses. Everyone has. But he always seems to come right back from them. A good example of this is his initial loss to Kevin Owens at Elimination Chamber 2015. John Cena, a main roster multi-time WWE champion, lost to a developmental NXT superstar. That would be a huge loss for anyone, and it was a big deal. For about a month, John Cena went on to beat Kevin Owens at Money in the Bank a month later, and again at Battlegrounds just for good measure. By the end of the summer, it was clear that Elimination Chamber wasn't a loss for John Cena. It was just a fluke victory for Kevin Owens. Okay, now let's get into the losses that John Cena himself thought were burials. On the March 13th, 2020 episode of SmackDown, Cena went down the list of all his so-called burials. And to be fair, they were all notable losses. But as he pointed out, the champ always came back. But was it because he crawled his way back to the top after falling from the bottom? Or were these losses really no big deal? Let's go down the list. First off, he mentioned the 2011 WrestleMania match with Miz. And I guess losing to Miz is kinda bad, but let's not forget that this was the main event of Wrestle Freakin' Mania. And even then, the Miz had nothing to do with this loss. He was in the match, but that was about it. Cena lost to The Rock Bottom, then went out to call out The Rock the very next night and set up another WrestleMania main event for the next year, all of which had nothing to do with The Miz. This match was nothing more than just a promo for The Rock vs. Cena WrestleMania 28. Then we have Cena losing to Rob Van Dam at One Night Stand in 2006. Again, Cena didn't lose clean. Edge had to run in and speared him through a table, and Paul Heyman did the count despite him not being an official. John got the belt back 3 months later and kept it for 380 days. Okay, so what do we got next? CM Punk Money in the Bank 2011. A clean loss where he lost the title to CM Punk's Refrigerator. But we didn't get to see Punk's Refrigerator defend its title in Raw, which would have been a great match. Instead, they had a tournament for a replica belt. And even though Cena wasn't even in that tournament, he still managed to win the title thanks to random rematch clause. The random rematch clause, gotta love it. Then there's the match where Cena lost to The Rock, but don't feel too bad for Cena. He got a redo of the once-in-a-lifetime match just a year later. The night after WrestleMania 29, Booker T didn't let Cena defend his title because The Rock still had a rematch clause. It's been 7 years, and I'm still waiting for that title match Booker T promised. Any day now we'll see once-in-a-lifetime 3. The last two in this list might be the biggest ones. Anyone who watched SummerSlam 2014 could tell you that Cena didn't have a chance against Lesnar. It was a one-sided beatdown. After this match, Lesnar went on to be a main event star, and Cena didn't win the title back for another 2.5 years. It's the only match on this list that even comes close to a burial. There is the loss to Undertaker at WrestleMania, but we all know there's nothing wrong with losing to Taker at Mania. If anything, it's an elite club. Also, I have to point out how impressive it is that he competed at all, considering how much alcohol he drank before the match. Seriously, go back and watch the beginning of WrestleMania 34 and pay attention to how much beer Cena drinks at ringside. So anyway, to answer the original question, yes, John Cena has been buried. He's not quite the Super Cena Corbett robot that the internet makes him out to be. But if you still feel like Cena has never truly lost, I see where you're coming from. All those matches I just mentioned happened over the course of a career spanning over 2 decades. His few setbacks have been drowned out by main event pushes and late night talk show appearances. Even when he does get truly buried, like he did in the Firefly Funhouse match, who cares? He is John Cena. People fill arenas and buy the network just to see him wrestle. If he ever falls, WWE will pick him up. John Cena is good at what he does. If he had to start over from nothing tomorrow, he would find his way back to the top time and time again. For some, it might seem repetitive seeing him kick out at 2 every time, and others might blame him for hindering the push of rising stars. But no matter what you think about him, John Cena has helped the business. When he leaves WWE for the last time, the prototype can truly say he left the WWE better than he found it. Because that is what wrestling is all about. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe, it really does mean a lot for a small channel like this. We not only talk about what happens in the ring, we also discuss what it's like being a part of the pro wrestling community. Because that is what Wrestling Informer is all about.